Alright, so here's a quick lesson on graphing absolute values. As you can see, the graph of an absolute value function is a V-shaped graph that opens up or down. So it's going to look something like this, or if it were to open down, it would look something like that. Alright, now the parent graph for the family of absolute value functions is y is equal to the absolute value of x. Okay, a translation is a shift in the graph horizontally, vertically, or both. All right, that means we're going to take it and from the parent graph, y equals the absolute value of x, we're going to shift it left, right, up, or down, or maybe a combination of the two. Now we're going to start out by going ahead and graphing the parent graph, y is equal to the absolute value of x. In order to graph this, we need some ordered pairs, so I'm going to make an xy table. We're going to start out by putting some order pairs up there. I'm going to start with -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And we're just going to substitute those values of x in and solve to get the y. So when we substitute in -3, we get 3. -2, we get 2. -1 in, we get 1. 0, we get 0. Substitute 1 into the equation, we get 1, 2, and 3. Okay. We go ahead and graph those on our graph. We start out with -3, 3, -2, 2, -1, 1, 0, 0. Then we go back to 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3. If we look at the pattern, it's going that way, and then on the other side, it's going that way. So again, we get that V-shaped graph like we said we would get from before. All right, so there's the graph, y equals the absolute value of x. All right. Let's take a look at a few other examples real quickly. All right, now on these examples, we're supposed to be comparing the graphs of y equals the absolute value of x and y equals the absolute value of x plus 3. All right, we've already graphed. All right, we already have y equals the absolute value of x graphed. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take that equation and graph that equation. So again, I'm going to pick the same values. We don't need to use all these values, we just need a few of them, but we do need a little bit of a range to make sure that we get a V-shaped graph. All right, so when we substitute in -3, it's going to end up giving us -3 is +3 plus 3 is 6. Substitute in -2, we get 5. -1, we would end up getting 4. 0, we would get 3. 1, we end up with 4. 2, we end up with 5. And 3, we end up with 6. So if we go ahead and graph those order pairs, -3, 6 would be there. -2, 5. -1, 4. 0, 3. Then 1, 4. 2, 5. 3, 6. All right, so what we want to take a look at is how did the graph change from y equals the absolute value of x to y equals the absolute value of x plus 3? Well, in this case, you can see that it shifted it up 1, 2, 3 units up. Okay, so if I had to make a generalization, I would say that's 3 units up. Okay. If it were minus, then I would probably expect, based on this, for it to go down. Okay, so again, this is not inside the absolute value, this is on the outside of the absolute value. All right. Let's take a look at the next example. And the next example, we're comparing again. This time, instead of it being outside the absolute value, it's actually inside the absolute value. We go through the same steps. I'm going to make an XY table, and we'll graph, and I'll use the same X coordinates. So when I substitute in -3, I'm going to do what's inside first. So that's -3 plus 3, which is absolute value of 0, which is 0. Okay. Then I would do -2, so that would be 1. -1 would give me 2. 0 would give me 3. 1 would give me 4. 2 would give me 5. And 3 would give me 6. If I go ahead and graph those, -3, 0, 1, 2, 3. 2, -1, -1, 2, so on and so forth. And if I notice when I get to that point, I don't have a V yet, right? So my numbers are just getting larger as my X increases. I might need to go back the other way. So I might need to take a look at, say, -4 and -5. Okay? So when I substitute in -4, I'm going to get -1, and the absolute value of -1 is +1. -5 will give me -2. Absolute value of -2 is a +2. So if I go back up and graph those, now I'm starting to get a little bit more of that V shape. Go ahead and connect the dots. So there's the graph of y equals the absolute value of x plus 3. And if you compare that, how did it go from the blue line to the line in red? Okay. So how did the graph change from the blue to the red? Well, we shifted over 3 units. Okay. And that is 3 units to the left. Okay. So if we have +3 in here, 3 units left. So if we had -3 instead, then I would probably expect it to be shifting 3 units to the right. Okay. So make sure that you realize whether or not it's plus or minus. Okay. Realize whether or not it's inside or outside the absolute value, because that does impact how your graph will shift. All right. So hopefully that'll help on graphing absolute value equations.